Greetings, fellow moviegoers, and welcome to Movie Central, the place to talk about movies, TV shows based on movies, toys based on movies, games based on movies, and rides based on movies. I'm your host, Mr. CCS, and this is my pet gorilla, George. Let's go over the history of Marvel's most popular superhero of all time, Spider-Man. From comics to toys to games to shirts to theme park rides, TV shows, good and bad, Spider-Man has been in so much media that it's practically background noise at this point. When it comes to cinema, there's a long history of canceled projects before an official movie was released in theaters in 2002. Since then, more movies have been made. Great, good, okay, and bad, according to many. But when it comes to Marvel Studios producing it, they didn't have the rights to the character until a purchase in 2014, after the failure of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. He appeared alongside the Avengers in Captain America Civil War, where he was well received. Obviously, he would receive standalone films and be in the team-up movies to follow. Overwhelmingly, the first movie was a huge hit, bringing in over $800 million at the box office, beating out Wonder Woman, The Mummy, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Long Haul, and War for the Planet of the Apes in the case of summer movies of 2017. So it was huge, and critics loved it, but now I must have my say in the matter. Today, we're going to look at Spider-Man Homecoming. Let's swing into action. A young Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, played by Tom Holland, who made his sensational debut in Captain America Civil War, begins to navigate his newfound identity as being the web-slinging superhero Spider-Man. Thrilled by his experience with the Avengers, Peter returns home where he lives with his Aunt May, played by Marissa Tomei, unintentional rhyme, under the watchful eye of his new mentor, Tony Stark, still played by Robert Downey Jr. Peter tries to fall back into his normal daily routine, distracted by thoughts of proving himself to be more than just your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But when the Vulture, played by Michael M. Batman Keaton, emerges as a new villain, everything that Peter holds most important will be threatened. Not the most complex of stories, but I honestly think this movie was fun and a great return to the Spider-Man franchise. But other than that, how's the rest of the movie? Well, it is excellent. Let's see how. Peter Parker is a character that is very hard to do, and for the most part, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are great choices for the role. But like many, I love the fact that they cast Tom Holland, who was only 19 years old when Civil War came out, and 21 when this film came out. And he was a great Spider-Man, especially how he makes jokes while fighting, which is what classic Spidey does. Aunt May is, yes, used for comedic relief, but I love how much of a motherly figure Marissa Tomei brings to the role. Instead of Uncle Ben dying, we've got Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, being the mentor figure this time around, and since he's my favorite character in the Marvel Universe, to quote Ado Annie, I can't say no to him being in this movie. We've also got Ned Leeds, who's fun, MJ, who is socially awkward, Flash, who is race swapped, and Liz, who is a love interest. These characters are great, but nowhere on the levels of the leads. Now, speaking of the leads, we have our villain, the Vulture. He was a threat in the comics, and it took years for them to finally bring him to the big screen. And they succeeded. Well done, guys. Yes, I do think of Batman as Keaton's main comic book movie role, but this is a welcome return to the comic book movie world after 25 years of being away from it. Unless you count Birdman as a comic book character, which I do not. I never did. Okay, no more characters this time for the visuals. I saw better VFX in 2017 summer movies from films like War for the Planet of the Apes, but I still love the work they did to create the Spider-Man suit, the Vulture's wings, the Iron Man Mark 47 armor, and the purple stuff. Great job! The music was done by Michael Giacchino, who still proves he can make an amazing score. And of course, the action scenes are straight from the comics. Scenes like the bank heist, the ferry scene, and the battle on Coney Island scream classic Spider-Man. My final verdict is, while not the best of the Spider-Man movies, this is still a great action-packed movie, with try and success contributions made to the MCU. I have much respect for Disney, Marvel, and Sony too, for making this movie, as it is one of the best modern comic book films of all time, which is why it gets a 10 out of 10. Keep up the good work, Marvel. Keep up the good work. Well, that's it for this review. Feel free to leave your thoughts on the movie below in the comments, and tune in next week as we continue to wind down in the Harry Potter series with the Half-Blood Prince. With that said, I'm Mr. CCS, this is Movie Central, and that, my friends, is a wrap. See you next week.